short update on the county's broadband initiative. Happy to report that Chesterfield has received a grant of over $755,000 from the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development through their Virginia Telecommunications Initiative, or VOTI, to create universal broadband in the county. I would note that the county's application was the second highest scoring in the process this year, which really ultimately means that we presented a very solid business case to earn this award, or this grant award. Just before I go any further, introduce some folks who are joining me. Scott Furman, who is our acting CIO, Mike Pond, if you're ready, who's our infrastructure division manager. They'll be the county leads on this project. Tom Ennis from All Points Broadband, and David Walker from Dominion Energy, also in the back. Our friend James Beasley. So welcome to everybody here, and have them at the table here to answer any questions you may have along the way. This really is truly a partnership with VOTI, the county, All Points, and Dominion Energy, all being a critical part of this effort. So this map shows a high-level scope of the project. In short, the areas in green currently don't have access to broadband, which amounts to 494 parcels, homes, and businesses countywide. The majority of the unserved areas are in the Matoaka District, 406 of the total amount, with some of the locations 80 in Bermuda, 7 in Midlothian, and 1 in the Dale District. I would note that the primary goal of this project is to ensure availability of broadband, but property owners are ultimately under no obligation to make any connections. They can make the decision that is best and makes the most sense for them. So the methodology of the project, the heart of this is really to create a middle mile network in partnership, again, with Dominion, who does the middle mile piece, and All Points, who constructs the last mile. Developing this middle mile, which you see in blue on the image, brings the infrastructure necessary to expand the existing internet networks closest to the unserved or underserved communities. In this case, the use of Dominion's energy grid gives them an opportunity to bring network fiber to that grid to help in meeting modernization mandates. With this middle mile in place, All Points can now in a cost-effective way create that last mile, which is shown in yellow, to connect more people to reasonably priced high-speed internet. On the funding side, Chesterfield's $1.3 million investment in this project allows us to secure just a little under $12 million in funding from our partners. The VOTI grant, as I said, is a little over $755,000, or about 6% of the project, with the county's contribution being a little less than 10%, and All Points and Dominion funding 41% and 43% respectively. So a little on the timeline of the project and milestones as we go forward. This will be a lengthy effort and is expected to take anywhere from 24 to 36 months to complete. Early on, we're going to be formally requesting your approval to accept and appropriate the grant at the July meeting, pursuant to any required contracts and agreements that are necessary for the grant. From there, All Points begins to refine the preliminary design that they developed as part of the grant submission, which will ultimately turn into construction documents. And also at the same time, and on a parallel path, Dominion initiates SCC approval that they have to obtain for the project. During all these phases, there will be community engagement meetings to educate citizens on the project and the services that'll be available. We can do as many meetings as we need to, and in whatever locations we need to be sure all the information is available to the public. Following this, the major step is the installation of that middle mile by Dominion. And as I mentioned earlier, they'll be utilizing their existing grid to do this, and it's really a win-win for them to modernize that infrastructure and also allow for broadband to advance through that. All Points then completes the last mile installation, which ultimately culminates in the service being available to those who want to subscribe. Before I close, I will just mention too that I think everybody probably saw the announcement earlier in the week about about $1.4 billion of federal funding for projects of the same nature. We'll be taking a look at what those grants entail and determine feasibility of securing additional funding. Perhaps that might be able to be used for closing wireless coverage gaps, but really not a tremendous amount of information is available about those dollars yet, and we'll be looking at that a little more closely as that information becomes available. With that, happy to take any questions. The subject matter experts at the table are also here to assist with any questions you may have.
Clay, I have a question. So if you go back to the last mile slide, that shows the yellow going from the blue line to the house itself. So what will the homeowner who may live out in this area that does not have broadband at the house now, what will their responsibility be to pay to have a line serviced from where it's available out at the road to the house? Because I think some of it has to do with the fact that, especially in the rural parts of Chesterfield, that some of the houses sit way off the road. And the reason, in some cases, that they haven't actually hooked up to internet is because it was an enormous cost to run the line all the way back to the house. So does this deal with that in any way?
I'll let Tom take that question.
Sure, I'm happy to answer that. So as you mentioned today, if a homeowner lives very far off the road, or if there's no cable running down that road, they ask for internet service, and it's not uncommon to get an install price of $8,000, $12,000, things that sound outrageous. So for us, the way we build the network, the yellow line will include terminals where a homeowner will connect their cable into the main line, and up to 500 feet, the homeowner would pay $199. And for a year after they are eligible to sign up, any distance beyond that is also covered by the grant funding. So it's a huge cost savings for the homeowner. Now, if we say your standard installation, sir, is going to be aerial and we connect to the electric poles to get to your home, that's a standard install. And if you say you want it underground and you want to go around the back of the house and skip the azaleas, you're going to get a special construction charge for that. But if you follow what we say is a standard install, it's $199. And for the first year afterwards, we also waive any of the long drop cost. Today, after that 500 feet, we typically charge about $2 a foot. So if you have a really long driveway, that does add up. But compared to the kind of opaque, made up out of thin air cost that the homeowner sees today, it's $2 a foot is a very transparent, very good deal.
So what you're talking about is if it goes on a pole as it goes back through the network back to the house, what if they sit so far off the road that they don't have any poles going back?
Right. So a lot of the drops have combined aerial and underground. And if that's the case and that's how they get their electric service, then aerial to underground for them would be standard, even underground.
So $199 and $2 a foot.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to get these calls.
I promise you will. Because, you know, on the one hand, it does sound too good to be true, but that's the whole point of this Virginia Telecommunications Grant Initiative. You know, if we serve everyone, we can, you know, include the high-cost locations and some of the lower-cost ones. That's the point of the program.
I have another comment, but go ahead, Mr. Engel. I think you were next.
I just want to say from that comment, I hear very clearly that you want to sign up in the first year, especially if you live a mile off the road.
You certainly would. And we, you know, we'll encourage people to pre-register on the website, sign up for notifications. We're not gonna know or inform folks until about 90 days before they can actually sign up for service. But once that point hits, they're gonna get mailers, they're gonna see yard signs, they're gonna get emails. We want people to sign up. We want people to participate in the program. And speaking of participation, another program we really want to push is there's a $30 a month discount, not just for All Points, but for basically any internet service provider. Homeowners can go to affordableconnectivity.gov. If they meet a couple of criteria, they get basically no strings attached, $30 a month off. That's a program not just for All Points, but for all your constituents.
What was that website again?
affordableconnectivity.gov. It's part of I believe it's part of the Infrastructure Act, related to the program you mentioned.
Dr. Miller, do you have a comment?
Just a question. You kind of alluded to it in a second. So it sounds like they will be able to connect to the internet service provider. Will they have multiple choices for who they can sign up for or with?
They will have multiple choices of the service level from All Points.
Okay. Can you give me a sense of who that would be?
They would be signing up with All Points Broadband for their internet service.
Okay. And then, so then from there, are they connecting? So you're going to be the internet service
We are
provider?
the internet service provider. We can help folks kind of cut the cord and recreate their content bundle, or, you know, use Netflix or an Amazon Fire Stick. We provide the broadband, and it's up to the homeowner. You know, they can use it however they see fit.
But Dr. Mel, I think, Tom, there will be varying levels of service
Right.
within All Points. So varying levels of cost, varying levels of speed and service.
Right, and when we initially start the program, the highest service level will be a gigabit up and down, pretty standard these days, but the network is designed to scale to 10 gigabits in each direction with very little upgrades. So, you know, we're making a multi-decade investment. This needs to meet demand, you know, 15 years from now.
Mr. Chairman, I'll just make one comment, if I may, and that's, you know, it's really apropos to have this after the equity discussion, because, I mean, connecting everyone in the county to high-speed internet is important. It connects them to information and gives everybody a level playing field to participate in the modern economy. So I just say thank you to all of you who are involved with putting this together. It's a big deal for a lot of people, and we appreciate it.
Chairman. Certainly, I appreciate the information. I think this is very important. Are there other ways you can sign up versus online, such as is there a phone number?
Yes.
And what is the time and duration of execution to get this done?
So two things. One, our customer service team is very experienced in handling customers who have not had broadband before.
Okay.
Our mission is to bring broadband to unserved communities. We call our customer service team, you know, they're digital navigators. They're helping people
Okay.
sign up for broadband for the first time.
Okay.
So while we do push the website, you can do it over the phone.
Okay. That's what I wanted
We'll
to
either
know.
walk you through it, or the customer support rep will fill it out for you on the phone. And number two, for the
timing
timing.
thereof, yes.
Yeah, so the timing, as Clay mentioned, it'll be 24 to 36 months.
Okay.
You know, we have two parallel programs going on, the All Points section and then the Dominion State Corporation Commission petition. They kind of run in parallel. The All Points last mile fiber, that's going to be very late in the 24 to 36 month window. The goal is not to have all 494 people with internet by the end of the program. It's just that they could sign up.
Okay.
And it'll take, you know, a year, 2, maybe even 3 years before enough of those people will actually sign up for the service.
Lastly, and I think it would be important for us to be apprised of the process and sign up, you know, the progress thereof, so that we can make sure that everyone has an opportunity. Because sometimes someone can miss out, and we don't want that to happen. We want to make sure that everyone is included. As we talked about earlier, inclusion and included, I think is very important and considered in this regard. So thank you for that. We appreciate it, and we look forward to, of course, bringing this to make sure the county is connected. And this is critically important nowadays, as you well know, for educational purposes primarily.
I think the other thing that's important for the community to know is that we learned in COVID that there were a lot of people in Chesterfield County whose children could not participate remotely in school because they didn't have internet access. And we had to come up with many other different ways, including hotspots, to make that work. And so by identifying these households in the community that don't have an opportunity and trying to at least come up with a way that they have a chance to get it, I think is extremely important, not just from the, certainly from the equity and diversity side, but I mean, just from plain fairness for everybody in the community. And so I think it's going to be great. I really do. I do have one last question. So when you talk about the blue line, so we'll say that you have a house that is currently on a roadway. I see there's one that's been identified here out in the country, and quite frankly, I don't think that there's any other ISP service out there. And so you're all going to have to run your line on either Southside Electric poles or Dominion poles, even to get it out there before they can even run that last mile. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, great. That's a lot of good information. Anybody else?
I did have one last question. Do you know if that middle line will run everywhere or just to the areas that this grant's trying to serve? And will you also be able to connect people that have other options, not under this grant, but to your service?
Yes, so the blue line in the diagram, so overall, between all points in Dominion, we're building about 185, 190 miles total of fiber. And some of those miles may overlap where we underbuild Dominion. But generally speaking, the blue lines are we have to go from a served area to an unserved area. Most of the yellow lines will be in an existing unserved area. Once the grant is closed out, all the locations in the grant are eligible to sign up, and we've closed out the grant. There is enough capacity in the network to offer some competing services along the route. Yeah.
And so just to be clear on the blue, so we're connecting substations and then, sorry, is that better? So our goal is connecting substations and devices, modernizing the grid, but then we also are focused on the other maps show those last mile polygons that we'll focus on trying to get middle mile service to, and then they would take it from there. So we won't just put fiber everywhere. It'll be very strategic, and there's a lot of dialogue between our companies to understand, all right, we need to go from point A to point B to serve those customers. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you.